Hello and welcome to another edition of 40's on the 80's, where we discuss, dissect, and sometimes trash our favorite movies, shows, and music from the 80's. Everything in the 80's is fair game, and today I am joined by my fellow film analyst, Rick the Rockets. Are you excited for this one?
Yeah, actually all week I've been stoked about this one. I've probably seen this movie more than any other movie.
Wow. See, I've seen it a fair amount, but I didn't put in a whole lot of effort into researching this one. I kind of just wanted to go along for the ride and marvel in your brilliance.
No, it's not brilliance. I mean, madness, but not brilliance. But
all right, and just for the record, I am the one pushing the record button on this episode. My name is Johan Redman. But since I'm more of a passenger on today's episode than a driver, I'm going to be handing the keys over to the Rocket as we slide down the pole into madness and adventure in 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure, starring Paul Reubens, directed by Tim Burton, and scored by the master of Burton sounds, Danny Elfman. So let's start up the breakfast machine and slip into some platform white loafers to dance with Satan's Helpers Motorcycle Club.
Warner Brothers is proud to present the story of a guy
Good morning. I'm here.
and his bike
James Bond kind of stuff.
together for the first time in their first big movie.
I meant to do that. I say we kill it. Yeah! I say we let him go. Merry Christmas!
Pee Wee Herman is Pee Wee Herman.
Hello!
In Pee Wee's Big Adventure,
Be sure and tell him Large Marge sent ya. Well?
And for those of you that have never seen this film, here's a quick breakdown of the plot. And Rick, see if I'm okay with this one. Pee Wee Herman is a character created by Paul Reubens, which is probably best described as a hyperactive child in the body of a grown man whose greatest love is his highly accessorized bicycle. A bike which is coveted by Francis, the spoiled rich kid on the block, who has it stolen for himself. Pee Wee's obsessive quest to retrieve the bicycle back from Francis causes him to get rid of it because he just can't deal with Mr. Herman being hot on his trail. So Pee Wee uses every tool at his disposal to track down his beloved two-wheeler, leading from one adventure to the next. So will Pee Wee be reunited with his Rosebud? Come along as we find out. So let's break this film down into its three acts. And as a reminder, the three-act structure is a model used in narrative fiction that divides a story into three parts. So Act 1 is the setup, usually to establish the characters in the world and their relationships, things that are going on around them. And the end of Act 1 is usually some sort of decision that sets our hero off onto some sort of adventure, a new story arc, which is basically the body of whatever the movie or story is we're talking about. So Act 2 is where most of the action happens. They might learn some new skills. There might be a love interest that comes into play. Who knows? But Act 2 will usually culminate with some sort of climax as we head into Act 3, which is the resolution where all of the loose ends are tied up. So, Rick, again, here's the car keys, buddy. You're driving this sucker. Where do you see Act 1, 2, and 3 of this film?
well, Paul Reubens, who was one of the writers, as well as Phil Hartman from SNL fame and Jingle All the Way, and screenwriter Michael Varhal, who he had other films that I wasn't familiar with, though. They actually, when they wrote the screenplay, they made it easier for you and I read because they used Sid Field's How to Write a Screenplay.
Yeah.
And this movie is used in film school screenwriting because it actually followed the template to a T. First act ends on the 30-minute mark.
Oh, really?
Second
They
act
actually do it by
begins-
timing.
It is exactly 90 minutes. Each act is 30 minutes long.
Wow.
It followed the rules completely because this was the first time these guys wrote a screenplay.
Yeah.
They were used to writing like bits and stuff, but not an actual screenplay the way you have to. And there's a specific format and there's a layout for that. So it's 1 minute of screen time is 1 minute on the page. So that's why if you look at a screenplay, they're usually anywhere from like 80 to 110 minutes, which are 80 to 110 pages.
Okay.
So since you have it on the back
Yeah.
rounds, I guess you could go right to the 30-minute mark so we can see where the changes at.
Fast forwarding to.
It should be right before or right around like probably before he goes hitchhiking, I would guess.
Well, I would imagine that his bike being stolen is the major catalyst, right?
Yeah, but if they're doing it the way they say they're doing it, and apparently that's been backed up, it's right at that 30-minute mark is where the acts change.
Okay, now where does the first minute actually start? From the first opening sequence of the credits or from the first time we see something happening on screen?
Try it from the opening credit, and then because it wouldn't take that much. So it'd probably be off like a minute or two.
Okay.
But it'd be right in a ballpark.
Yeah, let me check to see where that starts.
And if you pull up the screen, I'll know exactly where you're at in my head anyway.
Okay, so I just started at the beginning. Paul Reubens, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and it's at about 30 seconds here where they're doing like the opening credits.
Or what we could do is, rather than skipping by, you can go from scene to scene through the act, and we can go through the act with them and kind of see the structure of it, because there may be a certain amount of scenes that they have per act as well.
Oh, geez. Let's not make this work, man. It's got to be fun.
This is going to be fun. I swear. I swear.
I swear.
Come on.
I swear I will not kill anyone.
Come on. Listen to reason.
Hello, Reason. I don't know. I'm listening to Reason. That's what it was.
Yeah.
The first thing that pops up is an image of the Eiffel Tower, and that is at the 1 minute mark, basically. So it might be about 1 minute off.
That's the bike race. And
The dream sequence.
Yeah, where Pee-wee loves his bike and, wins the race. For people who don't know Pee-wee and they just know him from this and his movies, before this, he was part of the Groundlings improv group that was popular out in California with a lot of other comedians that would go into SNL and do a lot of other like television and film writing. And he established this character, and it really started coming around like 1980, but the premise was a little darker and more adult oriented, and he actually did have like an HBO special, and it was pretty much the Playhouse but more adult themed. The Playhouse came after the success of this movie.
Now when you say dark, you're talking just more adult themed, not really necessarily like evil or violent or anything like that, are you?
Not evil or violent, but the critics were even saying that like just the whole production he had, they said they enjoyed it, but they said it was weird, it was dark in some areas, but when as the character evolved, he knew he would get a wider market for it, and that's why he kind of made it lean more towards kids. And yeah, there's still some innuendos for the adults, but it was more more kid-like to make it just more marketable.
Well, just from watching this the other day, and one of the things that caught my attention was at the beginning where the warning labels like mature content, profanity, violence, that type of thing, it also listed sexual content, which kind of got my attention as I tried to recall what sort of sexual content is in this film. And to the best of my knowledge, I mean, it's just the innuendos. There really isn't anything much more than that.
Yeah, the innuendo that sticks out the most is when he's talking to Simone in the dinosaur.
Right.
And
everybody has a big butt.
Yeah, everyone pretty much saying everyone makes excuses.
Right.
He's, all right, Simone, let's talk about your big butt. and Andy's listening.
Right.
Andy.
And she says that she's never had anyone put it to her that way or something like that.
Yep. Yeah. So, and even when he went to the clubhouse or the Pee-wee's Playhouse, and that was on CBS, like on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
There were still some innuendos. It was watered down.
Right.
But he would still sneak them in every once in a while.
Okay, so the part of the film we're at now, he woke up from his dream and slid down the pole into his living room, which is essentially the format for Pee-wee's Playhouse, from the way it looks to me.
Yeah, and apparently he's got the Batman pole because he slid right into uniform.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It changed the clothes for him. And he's got this big, massive Rube Goldberg machine for making breakfast, from where we hear the Danny Elfman score for the breakfast machine, right?
Yep. Now, as an adult, watching it again, and I mean, I've watched it 1,000 times, but watching it with just looking at like how it was then and now, like Pee-wee, unfortunately, he's a hoarder. I mean, he's an organized hoarder, but he's a hoarder.
He's got a little bit of everything.
It must be a bitch to dust in his house.
Well, I've always thought about that as well. When he leaves out the front door and turns on his sprinkler, that sprinkling system would absolutely destroy his yard.
Yeah. Oh, I love the sprinkler system. It's a cool one, but
he never comes home to turn it off. It's going full blast the whole day. So he would basically come back to, well, I guess this was filmed in Southern California, right? So it'd be very similar to what kind of stuff they're dealing with now with all the floods. So right now his breakfast is burning from the looks of it. The pancakes are getting stuck on the ceiling, and he's using Scotch tape to sadomasochist himself in the bathroom for some reason.
He actually did that on David Letterman as well.
Okay.
I didn't realize like how much David Letterman was instrumental into Pee-wee getting really successful, because he was like the only one that would put him on his show, even though Letterman's show at that time was the 12:30 show, so he could have more weird acts on it.
Yeah.
And it really helped him. And a lot of the bits that you'd see in the movie, he actually did on the show.
I did watch some of those YouTube videos with Paul Reubens on the Letterman show, just out of curiosity, because I had never actually watched those before. I don't know. I've never really had a great fondness for David Letterman. I'm not sure what you think of him, but I mean, he seems to be largely respected in the TV community, the comedian community.
His persona on especially the first show, I mean, he was a little bit more, sarcastic, and when he moved from NBC to CBS, he had a lot more money. So he had a lot more guidelines, like, it's going to be a more mature show. He started wearing full suits.
Yeah.
And it changed, but I mean, he's had some guests that he didn't get along with, but for the most part, they said that they loved going on his show because he would actually really try to help them in their careers. And one thing, I mean, all these guys all have their scandals, and Pee-wee had his scandals as well.
Sure.
But like Letterman, when his stuff was happening, he was still in the air. He confronted it head on and took accountability. He said, "I messed up. This is what I did."
What did he
everybody.
do?
He actually had an affair with someone on his staff.
Yeah.
And
was he single at the time?
No, he wasn't.
Oh.
Because he didn't get married or have his kid until later, like much later in his life.
Yeah.
And he had a fling, and it got public. And rather than, avoiding it or having a press agent do it, he did it live on the show. And I mean, he took accountability, kind of poked fun at the situation, but he owned up to it. And then after that, no one ever talked about it again. So, like, it's amazing. Like, all these people, they get screwed up if they would just be like, yeah, I screwed up. This is what I did. Sorry. I'm dealing with it. Move on.
Yeah.
Half the crap that we watch that they say is news isn't news. They could just be done with it. Wow, we really went on a monkey hole.
And I was just thinking as well, we still haven't really identified the 3 acts of this film.
Okay, let's go.
All right. It's still playing in the background, just so you know. He just opened up the secret door, and so where we're introduced to the bike. Everything for Act 1, introducing us to the characters, to the world, without actually looking at the timestamp. Would you say that when his bike is stolen, that is where the act changes, or is it once he confronts Francis? Or is it the fortune teller?
I think it's when he...
Because the fortune teller sends him on his adventure.
It'd probably be around the fortune teller. Yeah. We'll see if that hits at the 30-minute mark. But yeah, that would be... It'd be right within the basement sequence when he realizes he's going to have to do it himself.
Yeah.
It could either be that because he's already leaving.
Now, when you say the basement sequence, you mean when he calls his meeting?
Yeah, with his rogue gallery of friends, and I mean, especially Amazing Larry, which is my favorite
I've
one.
always wondered, what does Amazing Larry do?
I don't know, but I like, and he's friends with Mario from the Magic Shop, so I want to hang out with these guys in that basement and see what's going on.
Well,
Apparently it's very warm to everybody else.
all of the kids in the BMX group or gang, whatever you want to call it, they kind of seem a little douchey to me. I don't know.
They do, but apparently they keep showing up.
Yeah,
And
they're not mean to him, at least, right? I mean, they kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They sort of patronize him a little bit.
I could see them quickly being converted into Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I could see that.
Because that one tall blonde hair one reminds me of Johnny.
Right. Oh, I was just thinking about it as well. There's another little bit of an innuendo when he goes into the magic shop and he puts on the X-ray glasses and he looks at the there's a lady that's in the store. He kind of looks at her and kind of makes some facial gestures and gives the okay. Like, all right.
He makes that noise.
Yeah, I don't remember that part.
Yeah, he does that. Then he picks up the ear.
Right.
What? Then he just throws it on the floor. And then, remember, he's got Billy. So, Billy, how do you like school?
But that was a lot of his improv though as well, because I saw a video where he got on stage, introduced by Morgan Fairchild of all people, who's also in this film, and he has like a bag full of props, which kind of felt like he was blazing the trail for people like Carrot Top.
Yeah. I mean,
Prop comedy, I guess.
Well, even Gallagher had some prop comedy besides slamming the watermelons. He would have some bits. So, yeah. I mean, when he was on Letterman, he would always bring like a box of weird stuff out.
Yeah, he brought a gift to David Letterman. I saw that one where he opened it and it was like the head of a doll which had been converted into a Kleenex holder.
Yeah, for the tissue box. Because I saw that one last night. I'm like, I kind of want that for my desk.
So the way that Pee-wee decorates his house, is that kind of how if you had the free reign and the unlimited resources to decorate, let's say, a basement, would you follow that? Would you follow that path, that pattern?
The Wacky Shack studio that I have that's detached from the house.
All right. So the scene we're at, I've fast forwarded a little bit just as in search of the end of Act 1, but Pee-wee, his bike has been stolen. He is confronting Francis in his mansion, in his palatial mansion, while Francis is having his bath.
Oh, really? Where are they hosing him down?
His butler will go on to future fame as one of the star runners or star stalkers who will hunt down the butcher of Bakersfield.
Yeah.
Here's another question for you. He gives, as he's apologizing, he asks Francis and his father, would they like some gum? And he gives them the option. And Francis's father chooses fruit. So Francis starts chewing, and it looks like some sort of ink-infused chewing gum because ink starts pouring out of his mouth. What kind of gum does he give his father?
I think it wasn't fruity. I think it was probably like really spicy since he yelled.
But that's what have you ever seen someone yell as a result of spice? It almost looks like it's painful.
Have you seen anybody ever walk around the house in that weird blue jumpsuit with his initials on it and an ascot?
Well, not the ass. Well, Rumsfeld had the orange jumpsuit in the Burbs.
He was outside working on his lawnmower and working in the garden.
Well, who's to say that Francis and his father are not building some sort of rocket ship?
No, they're not. They were working on... We've been putting up his morning train set all...
Oh, see? There you go.
But that calls for that and an ascot.
Hey, everybody's got their thing.
And he's not taking a bath. He's in a pool.
That's true. I guess the chlorine does the trick. And then Pee-wee gets on the radio to talk about his stolen bike. And Francis, they show him sitting in his, looks like a trophy room, talking to some guy wearing a Tigers sports shirt and a hairstyle like Leonard Squigman from Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, some greaser that
steals bikes, I guess.
Yeah, and doesn't stand out in public.
Now they're back to Pee-wee's basements. He's got all of the bikes parked outside, and then
there's a big blooper in that scene. Dottie's legs are in the scene the entire time, even when she's not there.
Wait a second. So she just now arrived. She just came down the stairs. You're telling me that before that, her legs were in the scene?
Watch the scene, yeah, and you'll see there's a big. There was bloopers that really stood out. I don't know if they went back and fixed those, but if you had the VHS copy, which I did, you would see some of the off-screen bloopers or some of the stuff that they didn't catch, like when he's chaining the bike.
Yeah.
You can see that the chain's being fed off-screen, and the legs.
Oh, yeah. They showed Speck, and right behind Speck was Dottie's legs and shoes. Yeah, and now she just now came down the stairs with Chuck. This was a part that I know me and my brother, we kind of imitated several times, where he starts talking about the cable knit sweater that you tug on, and someone else keeps knitting and knitting and knitting. And there's that photograph. It looks like Schlussel. Amazing.
What's it all mean?
I don't know. All right. So he's pulling out all of this evidence. It goes on and on. But this is at the 28-minute mark where he is doing this. 29 minutes. He's still in the basement. Let's see what happens at the 30-minute mark.
Fortune telling.
Oh, he is walking through the dark, rainy alley. And this part always kind of cracked me up as well. I didn't realize until recently that the thug who confronts him is actually Tim Burton.
Yeah, it's Tim Burton.
I never got that. It looks like some sort of, I don't know, street thug, like out of The Crow or something. We don't take kindly to strangers around here. Madame Ruby's tarot cards. Have you ever been to a professional psychic?
No, I have not. Have you?
I have not, but at the Stanley Hotel up in Estes Park, have you ever been there? They do have a resident psychic in the basement where you can make an appointment to do a reading with her.
That's cool.
That'd be kind of interesting.
Yeah. No, I haven't been to one, but I do use that line a lot. If someone at work asks me, someone's like, I'll say, let's see what Madame Ruby sees.
Well, how do you say it at work? Do you actually call yourself Madame Ruby?
Yeah, I'll do it.
I'm sure it confuses the hell out of people.
No, they're kind of used to it. I mean,
oh, yeah. They probably don't know who Madame Ruby is, though, because
there's only a couple people that do. Then, I'll throw something out there, and if somebody throws it back at me, then I'm like, all right, that person's cool, and I'll know. So I'll use that, too.
Yeah.
And one that I noticed, and it's odd, and why is the carpet all wet, Todd? And I'll hear someone scream down the hallway, I don't know, Margot. And that's from Christmas Vacation.
Right.
So if I find that person, I know I got an in. I got someone to buy into my program.
All right. So at 33 minutes, he is on the road to finding his bike. He's hitchhiking. And this part always cracked me up as well when he is getting a little bit more disheartened, not getting picked up. He's sitting down Indian style. Then eventually he's just flat out laying halfway in the road, sleeping.
He looks dead.
Looks like roadkill.
He throws the thumb at the car because it wouldn't stop for him.
And here it goes. He's about to get picked up. What can you tell us about the person picking him up?
Mickey. It's Judd Omen. He was in Dune. He was in
Dune?
Yeah. He was in The Howling too.
Wait. You're talking about the 1980s Dune?
Yeah, the one from 84. He was in Dune.
Who was he in that film?
I don't have the character name. Plus, I haven't seen Dune in probably 20 years.
Dune is one of my favorites. I've watched that movie countless times.
Well, he's in Dune.
What was his name again?
It's Judd Omen.
Judd Omen.
His first role, he played a doctor, but he was uncredited. in one of my other favorite movies, Serpico.
Huh.
Are you just upset with him because he cut the tag off the mattress?
You know what's also disturbing is how the cop that pulls him over finds Pee-wee attractive, and then Judd Omen seems to also find Pee-wee attractive.
Yeah, when he sees him just sitting over there, kind of bouncing along, enjoying the ride, he looks over at him.
Yeah.
But he did just escape from the joint, too.
Right, so he gets a pass on that one, I guess. You know, he hasn't had a
Not
whole lot
really,
of
but...
Well, more
not
so
really,
than the
but-
cop. Come on.
Well,
And then the cop, too. I mean, how rude is that? Imagine, you got pulled over a speeding ticket and the cop asks your wife to step out of the car so he can get a look at her pretty little outfit. I mean, them's fighting words.
maybe not back then.
Back when? 85?
Yeah.
All right, so now Pee-wee's driving and Judd Omen is taking a nap.
Now, that's another, on the VHS, I'm not sure if on Blu-ray or whenever they play it on streaming, when he starts seeing the signs for the road, they start getting really crazy.
Yeah.
You can actually see like a track system for the set.
It's pulling
For
the
that.
signs.
Yeah.
It's funny, I never noticed that.
I'm not sure if they have it on what are you watching it on?
Oh, yep, I just saw the track. It's on Amazon. Yep. It's like even with the light shining on the ground, you can tell that the ground is not moving, but the signs are. Yeah. Signs are getting crazier and crazier. It says falling rocks. Someone's just throwing rocks onto the set. And then he drives off of a cliff. Kind of like Thelma and Louise. They're still falling. Does he open up the top and it's like a parachute,
Yeah,
right?
he opens up the roof and then they land and then he kicks Pee-wee out. I like you, Pee-wee.
So this is almost like a car like Freddy has in Nightmare on Elm Street. All right, let's see. So this is into the Act 2 then. He's on his adventure. And like you said, it's pretty much followed the clock. It was like right around 32 minutes we entered on the adventure.
So, yeah.
And this is a part we always enjoyed as well. Like they show him in complete darkness with animated eyes. And the part that cracks me up in this is when he takes out his headlight glasses, and just for a split second you see all of the weird
Wildlife.
creatures surrounding him.
It's
Sort of like-
he's Ace Ventura. Come to me, my jungle friends.
He's found the landing point for Noah's Ark because everything is there. Oh, he's hitchhiking at night. Truck pulls up.
Now, this scene was almost cut.
Right, I recently found that apparently they thought
And
it was too
Tim
scary.
It was Tim Burton who wanted to pull it.
I thought they said it was somebody else. I didn't hear it was Tim Burton who wanted to.
No,
do
it was Tim Burton because he.
I mean,
thought,
it's very Tim Burton like though. The look of it, the claymation.
this part of the story is just like, what the hell is that? Then it gets back on track.
Well, come on,
and-
as if the rest of the story is totally plausible and makes sense.
In Tim Burton's mind, okay? And he just thought that at the end of it, yeah, he liked it, but it looked like they were just going for a cheap special effects gag, and he didn't want people to really think that.
Well,
But they-
that is almost exactly on the heels of their headlamp glasses lighting up the whole taxidermy scenery.
But I could see that more because, I mean, the animation portion, and that's what Tim Burton first started out as, an animation, because he worked with Disney.
Okay.
And that's the reason why he got this job, is because Paul Reubens and Phil Hartman actually liked Vincent, his first short that he did that was claymation, for the most part, about a boy who wanted to be Vincent Price. And Vincent Price narrated it. And
Okay.
it's great. October, I probably watched that short. And it's only like 5 or 6 minutes, probably like 10 times in October. Because it's got such a cool feel. And then he went on to do Frankenweenie the first time before it became
have you
an
seen the
animated one.
Yeah, the animated one I've seen many times. I don't think I've ever watched the original. The original was a live action, right?
Yeah, it was only about 30 minutes. It had Daniel Stern was in it as the father.
Yeah.
And Shelley Duvall is the mother. And, you know, it's a really good movie. It's got a bunch of like bit actors that you would see from like 70s and 80s. And that's what got him this gig. So this is his first real, feature-length movie.
So Large Marge just dropped him off at the stop with the dinosaurs, and there's like a diner. Now, from YouTube videos, I saw that this is a real roadside attraction.
And this movie helped tourism big time, even to this day.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I wouldn't mind stopping there and getting a t-shirt that says Large Marge sent me. Oh, and the old man who's talking to Pee-wee, telling the legend of Large Marge, he had a role in Beetlejuice. He was the janitor in the afterlife. Now, this was something I recently found out as well. The waitress, what's her name? Simone, sorry. But I was watching a YouTube video where they explained that Pee-wee, or Paul Reubens, and the actress who plays Simone played the roles of the Penguin's parents in Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did not know that. I never made that. Well, again, I've never really looked too deep into Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
No, I mean, it was, and I remember seeing that when I saw it in the theater in Batman Returns when that came out, and I saw him in the beginning of the movie and her.
You recognized him?
Right away.
No
because
kidding.
Paul, yeah. So it was good to see him in a different role because I did see him as a kid. Because he was in Blues Brothers.
Right. He was the waiter.
He was in Cheech and Chong.
Mr. Hamburger.
I don't know why a 7-year-old was watching Cheech and Chong, but I was.
I was too.
And I remember seeing him, and then I looked, and I realized, I was like, oh, he did stuff before he was Pee-wee.
One of the other little bits I saw was that supposedly the neighborhood where his house was filmed was also the same area where they filmed Halloween.
Yeah.
So that the same street neighborhood. But he supposedly also visited the film set for the Goonies around the time of this filming as well, and that he was in character. And that supposedly the role of Francis, I guess at one point had been offered to Corey Feldman.
Really?
Oh, you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I really do like Goonies, but it's not on the top list. Like with 80's movies for kids.
Really? For me, it is.
I don't know.
I mean,
I've seen it a lot. It's just
yeah. I think you just have a little bit more of an eclectic taste, whereas I might be a bit more, I dine from the mainstream table, whereas you like the more obscure choices.
Okay, we can go with that.
All right, so Pee-wee escapes from his encounter with Andy, hops aboard the train, doing the hobo lifestyle. And I think the person who plays the hobo, has he ever played anything that's not a hobo? I mean, the character just has that look.
He's got that look, and he was in a bunch of westerns back in the day too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Parts.
Oh, so here's Pee-wee having his dinosaur dream.
Which I like the dream sequences because that's when you see the real
Tim Burton
artistic vision side of Tim Burton,
right?
Because everything's always based in German expressionism, so it makes it always look. What are you laughing about?
I've never thought about any sort of depth when it comes to Tim Burton and relating to German expressionism.
That's his whole basis. That's why, all his designs, if you look at the geometry of his shapes,
yeah,
it's all German expressionism.
Oh,
which tie back to which really come out Metropolis and Dr. Caligari.
Okay, yeah, much deeper than I thought. But I just sort of fast forwarded a little bit here to where he arrives at the Alamo. Mm-hmm. So the exterior scene, that is the actual Alamo. But yes, the interior parts of it are, and again, this is from recent research, are filmed in a mission in California, which actually does have a basement, whereas the real Alamo in San Antonio does not have a basement. But
and then we have a cameo from young Jan Hooks, right when she was getting ready to go to SNL, and because she was friends with all those guys because of the Groundlings and just the crew that they ran around with, and she improvised her entire spiel,
which is impressive when you watch it because I mean it seems very scripted. It seems like some really good scripting, but I mean, she knocks it out of the park.
And out of all the scenes, like, that's still one of my favorite scenes with her, just the way she's talking and him getting so pissed, and then the way she's chewing the gum.
Yeah.
So it works.
They live in an Adobe. Can you say Adobe?
Adobe.
CC Pedro. The other bit that I learned about this mission where they filmed it, it turns out that it's actually where Bob Hope and his wife are buried.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's like you do a little tour around this mission where they filmed that bit, and they came across the grave plots for Bob Hope and his wife. I guess they loved it that much there that they wanted to be buried there. Glad I can contribute something to this conversation besides the sound of ice cubes and glass. Bougie, bougie,
Well, the reason why I say that is when you hear Ice Cubes, is he's one of his jokes that he would tell the press is that he used to jog, but he had to stop mainly because the ice cubes kept falling out of his glass.
So Simone is getting on the bus. She's following her dreams thanks to Pee-wee. Pee-wee looks like just a tiny little man next to her. He ends up in a rodeo and gets knocked out, right? And then he wakes up and they're asking, what's the last thing you remember? I remember the Alamo. I love those reactions. His mission to find his bicycle in the basement of the Alamo is a bust. He doesn't know what to do here. Looks like he's calling back to Dottie. And what is she saying? Just come home?
She's going to wire him money so he can get a bus ticket, but with the deal that when he comes home, they can settle it up at the drive-in.
So he travels from Los Angeles to Texas. He's going to leave Texas to go back to Los Angeles, which is how he ends up on the movie lot. Okay.
Now, we know he's in Los Angeles, mainly because it's just... But they never say that he's in Los Angeles.
I'm just going off of, just like I said, the house was the same one that they filmed Halloween in, and then the magic shop and all that stuff is like near the Santa Monica Pier, I think.
I did his bike stunts on my bike because we had a long driveway, so I would practice, and I would actually get up enough speed and then move my legs that way, kind of sit. And luckily, I never fell off the way like he did it in the movie.
Now, see, movies like Rad were inspiration for me to do bike tricks. It was never Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I watched that. It was Rad, and there was the BMX Kid.
Oh, there was the BMX Bandits with Nicole Kidman. Did you ever see that one?
I remember seeing that.
Filmed in Australia. So he wakes up from that. How the heck does he get to this roadside cafe from the rodeo where there's a motorcycle club?
Walked.
He just walked?
That, or maybe they dropped him off because he needed a phone.
He's in Swayze's Roadhouse right now. The name is Pee-wee. Now, there's a bit coming up here that really has always bothered me. I think since the first time I saw this film. He's trying to use the phone. They get mad at him. They're getting in his face. You can see he's getting nervous. He's getting scared. And eventually they're going to throw him out, right?
Yes.
So when they throw him out the front door, why does he sway and swagger the way he does as he walks before he bumps into the motorcycles?
Maybe the swagger and the way because if you look at the movement on that,
I don't like it. It just bugs me.
The swagger is his body mannerisms, pretty much doing like how Steve Martin would say, "Well, excuse me."
Yeah, but it seems like he's afraid for his life with almost all the rest of the interactions with these guys. So once he gets away, you almost think that he would kind of have like a puckered sphincter and just sort of hightail it out of there. But instead, he sort of...
Are you really questioning the character now this far in already this crazy adventure?
I like the character, and a lot of it makes sense. It's just that particular piece of the performance doesn't fit the character, in my opinion.
Well, he would have to do something for the bikes to go over, because if they threw him out and they threw him...
He could have backed away. Think about it. He could have backed away scared, like still watching these guys, and easily backed into it.
I don't think he had any awareness that the bikes were that close. I think you need to just let it go, man.
Yeah, I know. It's not something worth losing any sleep over or even wasting oxygen on. But it's a part that doesn't sit well with me. What does sit well with me is the dance sequence, which is now occurring. He asked for his last request, and what is his request? That he wants to dance?
Well, that was a popular bit in his skit. That
To
he
dance?
Would do when he would do this bit when he was touring the clubs with his show. Because he really does like that song, so he just included it into his bit. It's like one of his favorite songs.
Okay.
So he just...
Well, he also gets out of a possible interaction with Elvira.
Dude, they give him a cut. He dances for him, and they give him a cut.
I get that part. I was trying to rewind it a little bit. When they're talking about
crazy
skinning
that
him,
is?
tattooing him, killing him, they want to do all these mean things, but then Elvira, the woman who plays Elvira, snatches him up and is like, I say first, you give him to me.
Cassandra Peterson. And if you had a keen eye, when he was back in the magic shop, there is an actual photo hung up on the wall of Elvira as Elvira.
Oh, okay. Have you ever had a chance to meet her?
I actually did a 20-minute phone interview with her in college.
Wow.
Because I was doing, for the newspaper, they gave me a full spread for an October one, and I wanted to do, it was at a women's university, but they've been knitting men since 1982. So,
like Tom Hanks and such?
Yeah. So,
just have to dress like a woman, and then you can get into the college. Pee-wee is dreaming about his bike being put back together by the devil, which that sequence kind of reminds me a little bit of Tom Hanks's dream sequence in The Burbs. He wakes up to see the young child actor being awarded this bicycle for some reason. And again, let's connect the dots. Francis doesn't want the bike anymore, so he pays Squiggy to get rid of it. First, he pays him to steal it. Doesn't want it anymore. Pays him to get rid of it. How the hell does he get it to some film lot and gift it to a child actor?
I think you're looking for logic. Where
Milton Berle.
Yep. Which, if you think about it, if you can have Milton Berle on screen for 2 minutes being Milton Berle, how much of a push that is for you in your career?
That's impressive.
Your silly ass character that people have been putting down are like, we don't get it.
Yeah.
Because this movie, is popular as it is and was, still made like the worst movies list for 1985. And I mean, and coming out the gates, they cleared $40 million off of a $7 million budget.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a winner.
And then they had merchandise that came out with it, because then the Playhouse came out the next year. So it was all built into it. And I mean, Pee-wee became a huge franchise.
What merchandise came out of Pee-wee?
I never had it. I saw it though.
Was it a doll?
It was a big one that you had the pull string. And he had, when you pull string, I think he had like 3 different things he would say that randomly.
Would that be something you would like to have in your collection? Thinking? I'm not asking you to mortgage your house to buy it right now. I'm just asking if someone was offering it as a gift, would you happily accept it, or would you turn it down? Why are you thinking about it?
Because
it's not like it's a possessed doll that's you're gonna wake up in the middle of the night and it's wandering around making weird noises.
I know, but I don't know. I have a small Pee-wee. Okay.
From genetics or what?
Yeah. But like this Pee-wee, you could bend his legs like he was actually and everything. He was about.
You can have him sit next to you and watch blue movies.
No. He's actually.
Why don't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
I don't have him on display or anything.
Not like Pee-wee had in the movie house, right?
What's disturbing about that is that they had an undercover cop sitting in the movie theater You're waiting for guys.
Was it the same guy that also propositioned George Michael in the fucking public restroom? I mean, anybody who's doing this stuff is just, it's weird.
It's weird, but the fact that you have cops, that's their beat, undercover, working a theater to try to catch guys jacking off. Like, really?
Yeah, I mean...
There's not other crimes going on?
If that is their outlet, it's not happening in a Disney movie theater. Let them do it. Whatever.
I mean, that screwed him up, and
it
had nothing to do with anybody else. It was him. Just, who cares?
I was interested by the way he looked in the mugshot. You know, with the long hair and the goatee. Obviously, he'd been out of Pee-wee character for a while to look like that. I mean, was he just?
Remember, he did Buffy. He was in Buffy, and then
I never really watched it.
Not the movie.
The movie or the show.
He was in the movie.
Okay.
He was one of the vampire sidekicks. That's why I said that when you were talking about the alley.
Oh, no. I was just imagining.
You were making a reference. No, he was a vampire in Buffy Vampire Slayer.
I did not know that. All right. So just shot in the dark on my part. Much like Pee-wee in the movie theater.
Oh. But yes, I had a small action figure of Pee-wee.
Do you think he was making those kind of noises like when he had sex?
I don't think so. His voice, he had a very deep voice. Which I wanted a PA for my bike, and I did want the tiger on my bike.
Oh, yeah. Highly accessorized.
And that bike, there was 10 of them for the production.
Right.
And there's one in Pittsburgh on display at a museum, one in Allentown, but I don't know if it was Allentown, New York or Allentown, PA. And another one recently in the past, I think 5 years, sold on eBay for $32,000.
Yeah, I'd heard about that. It's amazing. Now, my son, I told my son that I was going to be recording tonight. He asked me what movie we were going to be reviewing. And I have had him watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure. But from time to time, I'll try to get him to watch something that, you know, I feel like was entertaining to me or is appropriate for him. And one of the movies that he has seen and really likes is the movie Ready Player One, if you've seen that.
Yep,
but there is a cameo for Pee-wee's bike in that movie.
Yep.
So
I do the same thing with my kids, like Pee-wee, because all my kids are spread apart. So, yeah. I mean, I've got 23, 15, and 10.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool because I get to kind of rehash all those movies that I liked as a kid and kind of get them into, like, all my kids, they're all into the Burbs.
Okay.
They all like Pee-wee. For some reason, I always had a thing about What About Bob?
Yeah.
And the kids pick that up, so we can speak in that kind of dialogue every once in a while. But there's certain movies, and I do like that because Pee-wee was... I remember my mom took me to see Pee-wee.
Yeah.
Like a week after it came out, and I was really excited. And then when it came out on VHS, she surprised me with it. It wasn't like a birthday or anything. It came out on VHS. She was out with my godmother. They came back, and she gave me that thing. And I wore that tape out every day. Like, it was steady. And then when the summer would come back around, every day, Pee-wee, I would watch it sometime during the day.
Can you hear that?
I can. You're gonna burn in hell.
That's kind of a random addition to, you know, this movie. And that is Dee Snider of Twisted Sister, right?
Yep, Dee Snider. We may, I know that there have been requests for trying to get him in.
For Scarefest?
Yeah.
In what capacity? Just as a fan of horror films?
Well, yeah, because he commentates and comes on like panels and stuff for like when they do documentaries or do like specials for horror. Because he did direct a horror film. So
what did he direct?
Strangeland.
I'm not familiar with that one.
the movie's really good, and he acted it, but he played like this really kind of nerdish character. But like his house, like he was big into like putting hooks into people and have people hanging around his house and piercings and all this stuff. And it's a bizarre movie, but it's pretty good. I mean, it wasn't a huge budget movie, but he's a fan of the genre, and the genre like him, so they've pretty much accepted him like as one of their own.
Okay.
So he's kind of got a pass.
So the scene in the movie we're in, he is being chased through the studio backlot, did a massive jump over the fence to end up in some other neighborhood where there is a pet store that's on fire, and he is rescuing the pets. He's got the help of a chimpanzee. He keeps bypassing the snakes.
Very much like Indiana Jones would.
He rescues all of the goldfish. Impressive. If you've ever had a fish tank, it's not easy catching all those fish. But those fish are still behind him, though. He's rescuing the snakes now. He comes running out, and they look like real snakes.
They are.
Now, this scene of this neighborhood, this looks like a backlot neighborhood somewhere, like in the studios.
It was shot over on Warner Brothers.
Is it really close to where they filmed Back to the Future? It kind of has a look like the downtown part of Back to the Future.
That should be over towards the Universal lot.
Okay.
Because, I mean, they use that, it's the same one they used in Gremlins.
Right.
And Spielberg at the time was tied to Universal, so he would just use their lot.
The part that's happening right now is that Pee-wee is sort of sitting in the office speaking to some studio executive. And just seeing this scene reminded me of the part from The Three Amigos, where the Three Amigos are talking to Harry Flugelman. I absolutely love that scene. I mean, so many great actors in that one bit in The Three Amigos. Yeah, that would be a good one to review sometime as well.
But when he last time I watched this, when he walked in, I envisioned our buddy, the White Knight, doing a line of coke with Pee-wee, like when he walked in the door.
Well, you could take that scene from Cheech and Chong's Nice Dreams, where they're under the table with him, and he comes up and he's kind of,
Yep.
Eyes are all bugged out, and he's got the white powder on the side of his face. And
not that I condone cocaine usage, but the best cocaine snort was in Cheech and Chong, the first movie, when the girl does the line of Ajax.
Oh, God.
She lined into oh. It always makes me laugh. So if I hear someone like clearing their nose, and then in my head I hear oh.
Now, that was Up in Smoke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the first one. Like that house party.
So the scene in that movie where they end up on stage doing their song, and Chong is the drummer in the background wearing like some sort of superhero outfit, can barely hold himself upright. And Cheech comes out wearing like a pink tutu with Mickey Mouse ears and a Zorro mask. But the song, I ended up downloading it. And there's been a lot of times where I'm in the car with my son, we're driving somewhere, I'll start playing that song, and he's like, oh, not this song again. But the parts where he starts laughing about being so bloody rich, I usually start laughing along with it. And I think that's the part that makes my son cringe. So now in the movie, the studio executives have decided to make Pee-wee's Story into a feature-length film starring James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild.
Yeah, which, I mean, once again, you got James Brolin and Morgan Fairchild in your movie?
Yeah.
I mean...
Oh, and I had seen a thing where supposedly James Brolin was up for the role of James Bond and didn't get it. And so this is kind of supposedly like them poking a little bit of fun at that idea.
Yeah. I wonder where you may mention earlier and said that he went over in character to the Goonies.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Josh or James?
Josh Brolin, the son.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I wonder if they interacted and maybe came to visit Josh on set.
Oh, they must have.
That's what I'm thinking. Now that you said that, it makes sense.
Huh, yeah. Connecting the dots. Oh, this is a great part. Yeah, the monkey dots, the monkey holes. Pee-wee's big introduction on the film that is being played up on the drive-in movie screen, where his voice is dubbed over.
Yeah, paging Mr. Herman.
You have a telephone call.
Mr. Herman.
And he keeps looking at the camera.
I like Mickey. He gives him some praise. That was riveting.
Action-packed.
1 foot long.
Oh, and when they show the scene again where Pee-wee's playing I don't know what you call him, the concierge, and James Brolin comes back because he tells him he has a telephone call and he tries to hand him the phone and he actually has to snatch it away from him. Just something about that just cracks me up.
And then he says it. I know you are, but what am I? And then he just walk off scene.
Now, James Brolin, I think the first time that he really comes to mind in my film awareness was for Amityville Horror.
Westworld.
Oh, that's right. He was in that. He just didn't have a beard, right?
Yeah. He didn't have the mustache. Because, was that... That would have been before he did Las Vegas, right?
Las Vegas?
The TV show?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. It was a 70s show.
Yeah.
About I'm not sure. I've never watched it. I saw trailers and stuff for the show and TV spots, but I guess it was something to do with the casinos.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was mob related or what kind of show it was, but.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one.
And then speaking more of Fairchild, but she's actually playing, on the big screen, she's playing Elizabeth Daly's role, who's Dottie. But somehow we did not mention Dottie at all.
Right.
So, Elizabeth Daly, she's probably one of the more used voice actresses.
Yeah, that was what I was going to mention, was that it's not so much that her as the actress is well known so much as her voice is known, right?
Yeah, she's done tons and tons of cartoons and animation. She's best known for doing Rugrats, Tommy Pickles.
Oh, jeez.
But besides her on-screen roles for Pee-wee, Devil's Rejects, Valley Girl,
I was just
Fire.
I hate to interrupt, but back on the scene, Francis comes strolling on, followed by a group of reporters, and one of the reporters is Phil Hartman.
Yep. Just
now noticed that. Never noticed that before.
Yeah, he and Paul Reubens were really good friends.
You said they wrote it together, right?
Yeah, they wrote it together, and Phil is the one that helped Pee-wee get the movie pretty much off the ground, try to get Tim Burton on board and stuff.
Wow. And I think Danny Elfman, this was his first movie scoring as well, right?
Yeah, based off of, and at first he didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He didn't think that he was not confident that he could pull it off. But then he thought about it, and when he signed on, he already had Pee-wee's theme already written.
Huh.
Before he even signed on, so...
Yeah, if you just listen to the soundtrack, you can totally picture Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
Much of Tim Burton's work sounds very similar.
The Breakfast Machine out of the whole soundtrack is my favorite.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the most popular, because I even used that when I worked in a haunted house a couple of years back.
I thought you were going to say when you worked out.
When I worked out. When me and the missus want some alone time, I like to put this on.
I put on my red bow tie and start the breakfast machine.
Barry White ain't got shit on me.
And you wouldn't want Barry White to shit on you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we are rolling credits. Pee-wee's got his bike back. He is famous in Hollywood, and his community has rallied around him. Good for him.
And because Danny Elfman did do this became a huge hit for him. I mean, in Tim Burton's career, I mean, that's pretty much Tim Burton's composer, minus Ed Wood, because they got into a fight about something and then they made up. But,
Yeah.
And then he was known for being in Oingo Boingo, and Paul Reubens liked Oingo Boingo, and that's why he wanted him.
I was familiar with a lot of these things for many years and just never really connected the dots. Oingo Boingo, I had heard the name, but never really knew any of their music. The movie Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield, they actually perform live in, one of the scenes in that film. I knew that song, and I knew the way the lead singer looked. Never knew that was Danny Elfman or Oingo Boingo. And then just through all of Tim Burton's works, I was familiar with all of the music sounding very, very similar, but I don't remember at what point I finally put all of those together and been like, holy shit, that's the same fucking guy.
Between Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Back to School, remember, they also did Weird Science.
The title song, Weird Science, is Danny Elfman?
Yeah, Oingo Boingo, that was a huge hit for them. Weird Science by itself, not even tied to the movie.
Huh, okay. Yeah, that's right.
And it's John Hughes, so, I mean, and all his soundtracks are popular because he's good at picking music in bands.
Yeah.
So
very 80s.
Yeah, but anytime I hear Weird Science, I always listen to it. It's a great song. And, I mean, the other big one that are known for Oingo Boingo was Dead Man's Party.
Right, that's the one from Back to School.
Yeah.
And that was also, after reading the book, Ready Player One, absolutely loved it. I felt like someone went inside my brain and pulled out bits of my childhood to create that story. So many great references in it, but I also went through it and individually pulled out all of the songs that are referenced and made playlists, which apparently a lot of people have done the same thing because I ended up finding a bunch of Ready Player One playlists that are online. But that particular song, Dead Man's Party by Oingo Boingo, was referenced in there. So my son is familiar with the Ready Player One soundtrack because I play that as well in the car. I actually put the playlist together in the order that it's referenced in the book, which is pretty cool.
That is really cool. It's cool when you can find do little projects like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're big into music. I know you've talked about being challenged to score different scenes in movies.
Yeah, I've actually got them on my one laptop. So I was actually going to boot that up this weekend and see how I format it. And I may be able to go ahead and either put it together and send it to you, or at least send you the track list so then you can set up a listing and play it with the movie and see how it jives. So
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I think we did it to 12 movies. So
I did that one time just because it bugged me that in the movie The Avengers Infinity Wars, I don't know how familiar you are with the whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Thor Ragnarok came previous to Infinity Wars, and they made great use of the song Immigrant Song for, there was a big fight scene where Thor kind of, believed in himself and was able to bring out all of his powers of lightning and all that stuff. And then, they used the Immigrant Song as kind of the big battle sequence song. So when
they used it in
go ahead.
Shrek, I think they used it in Shrek 3 too.
But I brought it up just because in Infinity War, when he finally shows up to the big battle, I wanted them to play Thunderstruck by AC/DC. I was like, it'd be so perfect, there's the God of Thunder, play Thunderstruck as he's, so they didn't do it. They used Alan Silvestri piece, which is great. Alan Silvestri's great. But I wanted to hear Thunderstruck for that bit. So I actually just went back through and played the video and played the song at the right sequence. And, I had my moment. So I was like, okay, at least in my imagination, it exists.
No, it's good when you can do that. It's fun to do it too. It actually helps with your editing skills.
Yeah. But I didn't.
You're trying to sync everything.
Oh my gosh. I'm dreading some of the work I still have to do for Die Hard and Rambo. I was working
All
on
right.
I was working on Die Hard last night, and I had forgotten the part where we started giving Dan a hard time about, and we were just naming off various Phil Collins songs and albums, and he was getting worked up in a good way. It was all fun, but it was a good piece. But for this piece, let's go ahead and say that Pee-wee's Big Adventure was a success. I was really interested to find out about them following the 3-act system to a chronological degree and seeing that put in action. So, I mean, acts 1, 2, and 3 happening at the 30, 60, and 90-minute marks. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
I'm surprised that other people don't do it. Like, follow exactly how Pee-wee did it. I mean, in regards to how the scenes and where the arcs are at, and you're hitting all your necessary steps to move the act along.
Well, but I mean, one of your favorites is Tarantino. I mean, think about how he deconstructs a lot of his films. That it wouldn't really work.
No, it would. I'm just surprised we haven't seen more try to follow that template straight up.
Yeah,
because it could work. You could probably pull it off more in a Western, because the Western, even though there's millions of them out there, it's the same premise in regards to good versus bad. And if you can do that within 90 minutes and, build it off that structure, you could probably fall really close to how they did their act structure.
it would be funny to figure out the timing for. Remember how we discussed the act structure for the Burbs? I mean, that would be more like Act 1 is like at the 60-minute mark. Act 2 lasts for 10 minutes, and then Act 3 is all the rest.
Yeah, I guess we could cheat and go out there and actually see if anyone's really broken it down and see what their take is, to see if we're off or on the mark.
Well, it's our work. It's our imagination. It's our analysis.
One cool thing that I did see about originally Pee-wee, the movie, because the movie was, he got options that they were going to make a movie like a couple of years before it even came out. So it was a little more different, and they were actually looking at it to kind of be like in the same vein, but as a remake, as like a male Pollyanna. If you're from, it makes more sense in his last one, The Big Holiday.
Oh, I never saw it.
It's not the same. Like, you enjoy it for what it is, but it's not Big Adventure. There's none of his movies top Big Adventure.
Yeah, it's like I tried to get my son to watch Big Top Pee-wee. He didn't care for it because he said Pee-wee didn't sound right, according to him. He said he sounded a little too serious.
He pretty much Citizen Kane, if you think about it. Like how Orson Welles did it. He came out hitting a home run right off the get-go, and then after that, how are you going to top it?
Right.
It's very hard, and then you have the pressures that come along with that. But it was going to be Pollyanna. In The Big Holiday, you see more elements of Pollyanna and his character and how he interacts in town.
Yeah.
Because everybody in town knows him, and he's very interactive. Where in Big Adventure, he's interactive, but with select people. In the last movie, he was with the whole town.
Right.
So he takes on that Pollyanna. He got inspired when he was out on the set, and he saw people riding around the studio on their bikes.
Yeah, that's right.
And he tied that in, plus kind of as a joke, I guess, to himself and the writers, is that they knew what they were writing, but they were basing it too off of really good classic cinema, like The Bicycle Thieves.
Right.
They got released in 49 or 48, but that was an Italian. And like if you take a film class for essential films, Bicycle Thieves is usually in that.
Huh. Yeah, I came across that when I was just doing a little bit of research, and I had never heard of the film. I always feel like I might have missed my true major when it came to schooling by not doing anything film related.
You still can.
Yeah, I know it's possible. Never say never, unless you're Sean Connery with the hairpiece trying to play James Bond again.
Or you could still be a walking encyclopedia of film without going to film school or going to any film classes. I mean, Tarantino didn't take any formal filmmaking classes.
Right.
And when they asked him, did you go to film school? He was like, no, I went to films.
Right.
It's just that I tried to watch as much stuff as I could so I could learn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just I'm always interested to know, especially you've got those core group of guys that went to like USC, and, as a result, you get people coming out of there, like Spielberg, Lucas, Scorsese. I mean, didn't John Carpenter also go to USC?
Yeah. He did film and he loved film, but he was really big into music, and he was a musician on the side. So he had something else going. It wasn't like how Spielberg and Lucas were just obsessed with film, and
right.
That's all they did. And, they were hanging out with Brian De Palma and
De Palma
Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah.
And that's, if you haven't seen it, you should look at the documentary. It's probably 20 years old now, but it's out there. It was from IFC, but it was like Easy Rider Raging Bulls.
Yeah.
And it gives you like a really cool history of the 70s filmmakers and what transpired and like how they went to the 80s and 90s. But that whole decade of the 70s and the freedom they had to make some films. And like Easy Rider was the first one at 69 to really start that new filmmaking because they were getting away from the studio system.
Right.
And some of the stories that you hear it's just crazy on how they got stuff done.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fascinating field.
And just the chances they would take, where nowadays they wouldn't take those chances.
Right. Or you end up like Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of opinions that I've shared with my wife about that whole fiasco, but I think she's tired of hearing me talk about it. But in terms of just, safety with firearms when it comes to real ammo and blanks, and then having to do things and, describing my many years as your many years would also align with this. There is a level of safety which has to go along with those things. And when people are cavalier or just not doing what they're supposed to be doing or just not professionals, shit happens. And that is really the sense that I get from after seeing pictures of the supposed armorer for that film. It just felt like it was a cool thing and wasn't a serious thing. That's the impression I get. And I feel like that's where the accident probably occurred.
She should have been the head armor.
Yeah. Totally agree.
When you think of like when they're doing props or they're doing stunts and stuff like that, you think, I don't know, just in my vision, I always see like those like older stunt guy types, who are managing it. Not like the newer generation coming in and just like, yeah, you can have fun when you're working it, but this is a very serious job.
Right.
And they don't take that serious at all.
I was going to ask if you came across that clip, that interview with the guy who played Sergeant Apone in the film Aliens, where, he was a real live Vietnam vet, and he schooled the other actors pretty harshly to never point a weapon at him or to keep their fingers off the trigger on set, just based off of his training. And again, it's that level of professionalism, which I feel like the set of Rust was missing. Yeah.
And I mean, Alec can say all he wants, but he was a producer. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the set that you're running. It's your fault because you didn't express the importance to, hey, we take this serious.
What I imagine probably happened is that they had these cool old weapons. They're out in the middle of nowhere. Somebody was probably hanging out at night. They're having some drinks and, hey, can we try shooting these guns, like shooting some bottles over there? And they got hold of some real ammo while they were fucking around. And, that's always a big no-no.
Yeah. That's why you have like those systems in place, that it's always, you have to have that barrier.
Yeah.
Where it makes it hard for that stuff to happen.
Absolutely. So if anybody's out there interested in hiring some professional weapons handlers and safety technicians for the set of your film, hey, Ricky Baldwin, Johan Redmond, remember those names. We'll make sure none of the Alec Baldwin stuff goes down. We'll make sure the Rick Baldwin stuff is safe. Safe. But yeah, man, this was a good one. And I definitely enjoyed learning a thing or two, and glad I was actually able to bring something to the table to, throw a couple of little morsels in your direction.
Well, I appreciate it. It's always nice to be surprised.
That's what Pee Wee said in the theater.
Man, I was really trying to avoid even talking about it because I'm like,
come on.
I know, but I don't care what the guy did to himself.
No. Yeah, I look at it like if he was standing in the middle of a preschool playground doing it, yeah, shame on you. Don't do that. But he was in a sleazy fucking adult theater. I mean, come on. Let's not, mince words here. I mean, those places have a reputation for a reason.
I mean, for the ones that need to come out, like the Weinsteins and all that, yeah, put them in jail and make an example of them. But the more that we do research, and more that we just get, people are making videos about everything. Like, I'm finding more and more stuff out about people I like that I don't want to know stuff about.
Like Bill Cosby?
Well, no, because, I mean, stuff like that's going to come out. The heavy sexual stuff. Yeah, you need to know about that.
Right.
But, all these other things, I didn't know that how many women Bob Hope had on the side. That came on last night for some reason. I was doing something and it was playing in the background, and it pretty much, I took it in. I was like, I wonder if that's going to really screw me up now. Next time I watch these movies, I'm going to be thinking about that instead. I'm like, what? It has nothing to do with what they did on screen or what I like.
Well, I think it's I think I was similarly tainted when somewhere along the way I'd read something or heard something where supposedly Milton Berle was hung like a donkey and was notorious in Hollywood for his prowess with utilizing his tool.
It's called Hollywood Babylon, and it's this. I got it at Goodwill for 99 cents. It's this book from the early 70s that tells you about all the scandals and all of just classic movies. I think it was from the 20s up until the 60s.
Yeah.
And they just break down scandals and all the weird sex parties they would have and who was doing drugs. And it's like a smut book. And I just got it because it was, a film one, but I read through it. I'm like, it's just garbage. I was like, there's some cool photos in it. And I mean, but it's all negative crap.
Yeah. Well, it's like that movie L.A. Confidential touches on that subject matter a little bit. Really good movie if you haven't seen that one. I'm sure you have.
No, I like L.A. Confidential. And there was a documentary about how the press agents, how much crap they would do to protect the stars when they got caught in a jam.
Sure.
Just all the abortions and then all, restaging crime scenes because the cops were in their pocket.
Wow.
Yeah, it was dirty, man. Real dirty. And it still is.
Yeah, that's true. Well, all right, man. Keep your noses and your peewees clean. And
keep it out of the popcorn bucket.
Honey, this one's eating my popcorn.
You probably get a UTI from the butter.
Oh. All right. Sounds like your dogs need a little bit of attention.
Okay. I'll go check on Speck and Speck 2.
All right, brother. We'll catch up with you again some other time.
All right, buddy.
All right, bye.
Bye.